Hi, and welcome back to Beans and Bezels. A few months ago, I reviewed the Armand Nicolet JS9-41mm dive watch, and I was very impressed with the design and quality of that watch. It felt great on the wrist, and everything came together really well. They recently launched their latest lineup of watches inspired by traditional pilot watches called the MM2. These watches have interesting dial colors, dial finishing, and come across as a fun execution of an otherwise serious design style. The MM2 is sold on a strap and has a retail price of 1400 Swiss francs. That's roughly 1550 US dollars. Since this is a relatively new release, I haven't been able to find discounts or deals on them yet, but I suspect over the next few months you'll start to see them more frequently and maybe at a slightly better price. Let's check it out. I measured the case to be 43mm in diameter, 52mm from lug to lug, and 12.5mm in height. The case has a combination of brushed and polished elements with entirely brushed sides and a bezel, and a brushed top surface on the lugs. The lugs are well proportioned for this case and curved down towards the wrist with a lug width of 22mm. The lugs aren't drilled through. There is a gentle step bezel section that is polished and seats a flat sapphire crystal. I'm not sure what kind of AR coating was done here, but I've noticed that this watch picks up quite a few reflections and was a bit challenging to shoot compared to their last diver. You then have an oversized and signed 7mm crown at the 3 o'clock position that is screwed down and also has amazing grip. The crown is brilliant, easy to operate, and just feels very robust overall. Great stuff here. Flipping it over, you have a screw down case back with a large exhibition window. This watch is rated for up to 100 meters of water resistance, and given the screw down crown and case back, I wouldn't be too afraid to take this one into water. This is an interesting take on a pilot watch design and has the same Rice Krispies based dial finish that I liked on the diver. They have 3 dial colors and I requested to review the black and orange combo. There is an outer minute track on the slope chaptering that has bold Arabic numerals for each increment of 5 and white ticks for the other markers. The printing quality is good and it's very easy to read. You then have raised Arabic numerals for all the hour markers. They have black borders and are covered with Lume. I like the font and it definitely has some vintage pocket and field watch influence. There is a date window at the 6 o'clock position, which is something I usually love, but I don't like this design as it eats into the 6 o'clock hour marker and leaves a decapitated marker that is pretty much illegible anyway. I recognize that the movement dictates where the date window goes, but I think they could have made better use of the space under the date window. The actual date window is well executed with the neat white border and sloped inner surfaces. Another aspect of this watch I fully haven't understood is why it says Made Swiss and not Swiss Made at the 6 o'clock position. The brand's logo is raised onto the dial surface below the 12 o'clock and there's some text above the date window. The finishing is good except for a small section of missing paint on the A of automatic. The handset is very interesting and it's a creative take on the arrow style hands that you typically see on pilot watches. The hour hand is a large oversized arrow which has an almost retroreflective orange colored tip with a strip of lume running down the middle. The minute hand is a bit more traditional and follows the same color palette but with a bit more lume. I wish the seconds hand was also lumed, but it is visible in the dark because the orange tip reflects some of the light from the other lumed elements, and I think that's pretty cool. The lume on this watch is better than it was on the last diver that I reviewed, but it isn't as good as what I typically get to see from micro brands today. The brightness tapers off quickly, but the longevity isn't bad. However, if you're expecting radioactive lume like on a Zelos or Seiko, you're going to be a bit disappointed. The hour numerals appear to be lumed with C3 superluminova, and the hands might be C1 here. The orange on the hands behave in a somewhat retroreflective manner as I mentioned below, and that's pretty nice. This watch uses an ETA 2824-2 movement, which is on full display thanks to the exhibition caseback. The movement is clean, indicating good quality control, and the signed rotor is a nice touch. I've had mostly good experiences with this movement, and the fact that it's fairly robust and easily serviceable appeals to me. On my time grapher, I observed roughly plus 5 seconds per day in the dial up position and plus 3 seconds per day in the crown up position. Both of these are good numbers for this movement and appropriate for what this watch costs. Unfortunately, the 43mm diameter and 52mm lug-to-lug width make this watch a bit too large for my narrow 6¼ inch wrist. I think you need at least 6.75 inch wrist to pull this off, and maybe a 6.5 inch wrist if you're into the big watch aesthetic. But trying to remove my skinny wrist from this equation, it's actually a comfortable watch with a flat case back and well-balanced weight distribution. The 12.5mm case height definitely helps, and the curved lugs are quite comfortable too. I'm not very fond of the strap that this watch ships with, as it's a bit stiff. I'm sure it'll break in eventually, but I didn't give it a chance and swapped it out for something a bit more comfortable. So to wrap this up, if you have large wrists and you find this design attractive, there isn't anything to really complain about here. Sure, the Lume isn't the greatest, but I think the solid case build, legible dial and neat dial finishing make up for that. As with most Armand Nicolet watches, if you can't afford the full retail price, make sure to keep an eye out for good discounts and good deals on the pre-owned market. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to read my other reviews in the link below.